What's up, y'all? Welcome back. Inner World playthrough. My name is Jake, aka the Sinner Tarnished. Thank y'all for joining. Continuing on here to Castle Morn and oh, there it is, the tower. Finally, I can return to our home, bathed in rays of gold. That's kind of so. If you think about like the Erd tree and the gold that shines off of it as being America's like ego-centric consciousness type of thing. That person is desperately trying to make their way back into that space in America's head. So here we find the ambush shard, and then we find Selen's actual body. So one of the night sorceries of Celia, town of sorcery, launches a projectile from a distance removed from the caster so as to strike the enemy from behind. The Celian sorcerers were assassins, and it is said that they often hunted their fellows. Oh. It's yeah. So the factions that come off of faith. So you have, even within Christianity, you have Catholicism, you have Lutherans, you have Methodists, you have blah 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 blah, and none of them really get along well, which blows my mind because they're all talking the same shit. Like, it's all the same stuff. So it makes sense that those factions would find its way into the world of scientific intrigue and scientific advancement. Like, there's different factions that I'm sure that there's some factions that believe that science has gone too far, or science needs to progress further, or that we should dabble in one science and not the other. Like CRISPR is a good example of, like, that is becoming, we're tipping the scales too far, which I believe, now that I'm talking about it, I might as well just say it, that's kind of the what the Nox did to provoke the greater will, is they represent that. Well, first of all, I think that they represent the Illuminati, but that's for another discussion. But they represent, like, the Silver Tears and Mimics, I believe, is like the modern, is their version of our modern day, like, CRISPR, where we're essentially creating life. We're either cloning it, like that's been proven to be possible, or we're genetically modifying it so much that it's no longer done by God's will. Like, we are essentially taking out all the imperfections and things like that, and making our own life, basically in our own image, and how we want that life to be. So anyways, that's for another day, but
It will do no good, I swear it. And yet you persist. You frothing degenerates.
So it would make the game is implying that she is here really by the hands of her own people, by other sorcerers, and clearly they are after something. We find later on in the game what that is, but
well, it's been an age since I've seen a customer. How can I help here at the end of the earth?
Two? Sure. Uh-huh. That's pretty much all I need.
Have a safe journey.
I will. Alright. We're getting close to Castlemore here. I actually don't want to do this because I don't want to go to the Divine Bridge. So I think I'll just... Wait. Can I get to the Earth Tree from here? Oh. Really? It's just that? Come on. messed up. But what's that? I've often wondered what those the Erd Tree avatars are supposed to kind of represent. If I was going to take just a knee-jerk reaction kind of stab at it, I would almost say it's like the physical representation of what America's ego currently looks like. Because the seems that their whole purpose is to feed their minor Erd trees, and to kind of watch over them, which is, in a sense, kind of what America's ego does, is it watches over the Erd tree, and really their tree is the representation of her ego, but just kind of how distorted and ugly the current status quo of her The siege of Castle Morn, a lone hero fights for his vengeance, only to fall at the hand of Lord Godfrey. So, to me, vengeance would mean that it would have to come from America's unconscious. Something that she has been repressing and has basically imprisoned for a very long time. So, I don't think it makes sense that would be Radagon, based off of what we talked about in the previous part. It would have to be. I mean, although it's true that the animus is part of the unconscious. But it would seem to be more of a. It'd fit better if it was more of like some sort of misbegotten type of character. But it's possible that Radagon was more of that type of character, and developed just how, you know, we develop as we go through the game too. It's possible that his defeat by Godfrey was kind of one step in his process of development. So this scene right here is just like, it's chock full of psychoanalysis, basically. It's like, am I about to get attacked here? Okay. It's like this victory of the unconscious over the conscious, and it even states that these people, these misbegottens, were prisoners and slaves and stuff like that, and were once, you know, seen as divine, as like the way to be, when Mariko was more in a childlike state of her development, and she was operating more in the unconscious than the conscious realm. So yeah, it's the fact that they rose up, broke free of their shackles, and basically murdered their counterparts. It puts a very, this scene right here is like, the unconscious is pissed. Like, they've had enough of being repressed and you know, enslaved and treated unfairly and forgotten and all this kind of stuff, and they're rising up. So, and that's true for, you coming after me? That's true for everywhere here in the Lands Between. And again, it just kind of re-emphasizes the actual name of the land, the Lands Between. It's not her consciousness, and it's not completely her unconsciousness. It is a blend of the two that are fighting for their time and for justice. Oh, don't do it. Jesus. Ah! It's also fitting that smoldering butterflies are found here, as fire kind of represents a end to one thing, one era, and a beginning of another. So they're burning away essentially the consciousness and letting the unconsciousness flourish and start a new way of life here. I meant to do this in a later video, but even the treasure boxes, there's so much here in the motif on it. So you have at the bottom the roots, the unconsciousness, the very foundation for which people kind of it's the split, right? Like as above, so below. So the roots, the unconsciousness, excuse me, and then above is the consciousness, the actual things in the light, what the outer world sees. But that's not, neither one of those things are what a person really is. It's not really the treasure inside a person. It's what's in between them that is the actual treasure. It's the combination of both of these things. And I think it's just another like beautiful example of, it takes both to get the treasure that you're after, which, in the actual treasure boxes themselves, it's just an item. But for an individual, it's like almost like nirvana, or the state of complete calmness, tranquility, peace. This helped you out, bro. I don't want to look at one of these dudes. God, your necks are all. Oof. You guys should. So one thing I've noticed is notice the hair on these misbegottens compared to the hair of America that we see at the very, very end of the game when we put her head back on her statue, essentially. But again, kind of re-emphasizes the fact that these misbegottens are, the part of America's psyche that has been repressed, and they have wings and they have scales and claws and are very much crucible where all life was blended figures. Then they also kind of have a head of a human being and blonde hair, like a physical representation of this. They clearly come from one thought or one thing. What the iron cleaver says. Fairly large iron cleaver, commonly used by the maltreated misbegotten. Steeped in resentment, these weapons are swung wildly and relentlessly, often after rushing up to foes. Yeah, so yeah, that's a great item description for how one's repressed part becomes resentful and aggressive and all this type of stuff. And one thing that is often said about the process of individuation is that it's our process of regaining those more beastly instincts that we all have inside of us, and reconciling those with our more modern, like, mammalian brain and things like order and structure. So the fact that they just run up to people and swing it wildly is like very much it's like an instinct type of thing. It's very much like the fight or flight instinct that we all have. Sorry, that's probably annoying. Hello.
There's a face I've not seen before. I'm Edgar, warden of this castle, as ordained by Lord Godric himself. So you can see how things have turned out. The menials have all rebelled. They gave me good service, or so I thought. But it seems it was all an act. Foul creatures, as it said, and true enough, they're foul inside and out. I'm sorry to disappoint you, but whatever you come here to do, I'm afraid Castle Morn won't hold much longer. Take this, by way of apology.
Thank you.
I see. From Arena. Thank you. I mean, you're dead. But I can't leave yet. Even if the castle should fall, as commander, I must remain to ensure the treasured sword of Morn does not fall into the wrong hands. If you see Arena, do tell her that her father will come for her once he's fulfilled his duty. If you see her father...
So, a few things about him is it's really funny that he has such disdain for these creatures, because he more or less turns into one of these kind of beastly, instinctual, chaotic personas, because he, for one, the misbegottens are fucking pissed and they've had enough, and that's exactly what he turns into when Irina dies, is kind of just this beastly, instinctual character that hunts things down because he's pissed. And his armor even tells you that story. One light, one dark, very much the split in man. And it's funny that when we are in the light, it's so easy to point the finger and be like, those people are messed up, something's wrong with them, like they're crazy. But we all have that inside of ourselves. I mean, we're just one situation away from turning into a beast ourselves. So yeah, it's the storytelling here is done really, really well. And his armor also resembles kind of that just chaotic nonsense of the crucible and of unconsciousness. Yeah, so it's very similar to what we see Master Hugh's weapons look like. Which I know that there's a theory that Master Hugh might have been the actual person that was talked about as the siege of Castle Morn standing alone. It's possible that when he was defeated, he got, enslaved to be a smith. But yeah, really, really good storytelling here. And it's actually funny that the white part is like feathers, and that the dark part of his surcoat is like a man-made thing, kind of talking about the darkness within each of us. Really cool. One thing I'm not sure of, and I'd love your guys' opinion on, is do you think that Castle Morn is foreshadowing of what the world will dive into if America does not go through this process of individuation and kind of reconciling all parts of herself, if she just keeps repressing the version of herself that she doesn't like, that this is what the world will turn into? Or is it just kind of maybe the first domino to fall as far as like her psyche, and it's moving closer and closer north towards the Erd Tree? And this is kind of the furthest point from the Erd Tree, so it would make sense that furthest from her light of consciousness, and maybe she's not even super aware of it herself, that this is kind of like the first domino to fall within her consciousness. Like for example, I'm a person, I suffer from anxiety, and sometimes I'll have these anxiety attacks that seem like they come out of nowhere, but through journaling and things like that, I can almost point to the day where it's like, oh, this was like kind of the first thing that should have caught my attention, but it didn't. And because it didn't, and I just let it go, that domino knocked down the next domino, knocked down the next domino, until I just had a full-blown anxiety attack, when I could have addressed it all the way back then, 2 months ago or whatever it was. But instead I kind of ignored it or didn't even realize it was a thing. And it's possible that Castle Morn represents that, that kind of first domino to fall, that either America did notice and was part of her individuation process, or that she didn't, which is probably true, and that is why the rest of the world is kind of in this chaotic ruin as well, because she didn't take notice of the very first domino to fall, and now it's just completely out of hand. I don't know, I'm curious to hear what you guys think about it. Please help me, I'm of noble blood. If those hideous mongrels eat me, I'll be forever marred. Anything but that, please, think of the disgrace. So nobles seem to be like the inhabitants of America's consciousness, or her ego, excuse me. They think very highly of themselves, kind of like this pure thing, that everything else is just hideous mongrels. Twin Blade Talisman. Let's read that up, shall we? Talisman depicting a twin blade and a confessor enhances the final hit, ending a chain of attacks. The twin blade technique is a tradition of the confessors who closely guard the secret of how they preserve the momentum of their attacks. Thus is the final strike of their onslaught all the more deadly. Huh. Confessors as in like the confessor, the church confessor things? Oh shit. It's weird that they get like scared down here. Once you jump past the castle, like the backside of the castle, they're all like cowering, which is interesting. Afraid of something. Maybe they are the ones that did not want to rise up. Afraid of the repercussions that would and undoubtedly happen. Yeah, so you can see that kind of like swirly, chaotic motif is what was on Ivan's surcoat and on his armor, which to me is definitely like crucible unconsciousness type of.
Well, where have you been hiding? I took you for dead. No matter, it's all the same. Lay out your arms then.
Right on. Right on, right on. Sure. Talk to you.
I am pleased to see you again. Would you like me to hold you once more? Now, come closer. You are so very warm. I was known as a deathbed companion. Where I come from, after I received the warmth and lively vigor from a number of champions, I lay with the remains of an exalted noble. To grant him another chance at life, to do so is the purpose of my being. But before I could bear the noble into new life, I was awakened by the guidance of grace and chased from my birthplace. Pray, be kind. Despite all that, I still wish to be a deathbed companion. So please, let me hold you like this, as often as it takes. Then good day to you, my dear.
So the way that I would understand that, what she just said, is the Exalted Noble, from, again, how I am perceiving everything, is that is Godwin. And please correct me if I'm wrong. And it seems like before that she was brought into the light of America's consciousness, that she was in the unconsciousness with Godwin, and kind of embracing him, and trying to, I don't know if resurrect is the right word, but trying to give him another shot at life. But then she was suddenly brought here, just kind of like how everybody else is. Like, so it's either that she was being stopped from what she was doing, or that America needed this particular version to complete her journey. But yeah, she's still kind of one of those figures that I'm not really sure. If you guys have thoughts on her, please, I'd love to hear it. Don't really need to talk to anybody. Let's just gets to going here. She looking at D, huh? Probably nothing I need. Grafted blade, great sword. The storied sword of Castle Morn, a revenger's weapon. It is burdened with oceans of anger and regret, one of the legendary armaments. A lone surviving champion from a country now vanished was so determined to continue fighting that he claimed the swords of an entire clan of warriors. Yeah, again, it would make sense that a blacksmith would be the one to make this weapon, and that it would be something that bubbled up from America's unconsciousness. So it burdened with oceans of anger and regret. And I explained earlier that things like water, oceans, waterfalls, things like that are often analogous, or kind of metaphors for the unconscious, or like a dream world type of scenario. For those that have played Bloodborne, that was a big theme in there. Oceans and stuff were like very much the division of like different worlds, and so burdened with oceans of anger and regret is like burdened with the rage from her unconsciousness. Yeah, it's and you know, as far as the Radagon theory, you have to remember that the animus is part of the unconsciousness of America. So, you know, I know in the game files it says that these misbegottens are children of Radagon, or something along those lines. It's like, yeah, they all kind of come from the same place. And red is very much like the color of the crucible. So, as I explained in an earlier part of this walkthrough, that there's different, stages of the animus, and different, basically, they become more and more whole and developed. So the fact that Radagon has red hair is just another stage representing the fact that he comes from the crucible, and at least part of himself is connected to that, where Godfrey, the first version, is not connected to the crucible at all. It is just power, rage, very singular thought. But the fact that Radagon hates his red hair just again shows that both America and her animus during that time, during that development, still loathe that part of themselves. A kind of chaotic, unstructured part. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, perfect. 50 minutes. So, yeah, I think I think we've covered quite a bit in this video. I love Castle One. I mean, I think like that right there is such a such a beautiful shot, and it's kind of like almost like the first defense of America's psyche, if you will. Like, you could make the argument that things that travel across the sea are invasions of her psyche, like either unwanted thoughts, things like that. And Castle Morn is kind of like the the first defense of it, the bulwark of it. I think that's bulwark. Yeah. I did want to read this. So a rusty anchor wielded as a weapon. Each of its 4 flukes is thick and sharp, enabling piercing attacks. When the Tarnished left the lands between with their lord, one boat alone was said to have been left behind. Not sure if that is supposed to represent somebody. But the serpentine coil is when it's a singular one like that, at least in kind of a biblical sense, very much represents like the darker part of man, kind of wrapping around in a sense, the Erd tree, like the lighter part of man, like, because serpent very much represents, evil, unconsciousness, the darker side, shadow side, all that kind of stuff. Well, I think that'll do it for me today. Again, thank you all so much for watching. I'm really, really, really enjoying making these and the feedback and stuff that you guys are providing. It's been really fun. So join my Discord if you want to chat kind of one-on-one, or if you are curious about kind of the stream of thought that comes from my brain. Otherwise, just give this video a like. Please consider subscribing, all that good stuff. And I'll see you all in the next one. Much love. Peace.